going to go ahead and get started, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. For the love of our beloved Prophet and his beloved progeny, please recite a loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. For the hastening in the return of our beloved 12th Imam, please recite another loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. I hope everyone is doing well. We will continue inshallah with the story of Yusuf alayhi salam and how the story is slowly inshallah coming to an end, and Yusuf is going to reconnect with his father Yaqub. I will do a quick review of what we discussed up until this point, and then we will continue with the story. We reached this point in the story of Yusuf alayhi salam that his brothers actually came to Egypt. And they didn't come to Egypt once, they actually came to Egypt a number of times, and this time is going to be the second time. The first time that they came, Yusuf alayhi salam told them to bring their younger brother with them. He apparently had known through the conversations that the brothers of Yusuf had brought up with Yusuf themselves that there is a younger brother that they have that they did not bring on this trip with them. And Yusuf alayhi salam, he threatened them from one perspective, and he also encouraged them from another perspective to make sure that Binyamin is brought to him the next time that they come to get the wheat that they need in order to be able to go through this drought that they are going through. Okay. The verses of the Quran say that when they went back, that's the first thing that they told their father. The first thing that they told their father was that this time if we go back, we have been told that we are not going to be given any wheat. مُنِعَ مِنَّ الْكَيْلِ. The only way to solve this problem is this. فَأَرْسِلْ مَعَنَا أَخَانَا نَكْتَلْ وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. The only way to solve this situation is that if you sent Binyamin with us, and we can give you a promise that this time we're going to take care of him. Of course, this request from the brothers of Yusuf, it brought back some very bad memories for Yaqub alayhi salam, and this is what he brought to their attention. Verse 64 says this: قَالَ هَلْ آمَنُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ إِلَّا كَمَا أَمِنْتُكُمْ عَلَىٰ أَخِيهِ مِنْ قَبْلَ. You guys want me to entrust you with Binyamin, with one of my children, the same way I entrusted you with Yusuf alayhi salam, and we all know what happened to Yusuf. But at the end of the day, Yaqub knew that he is not going to be able to control everything that happens in his life. He knew that he had to relinquish his authority over the different affairs in his life at one point, and therefore he followed up this comment with this phrase. He said, فَاللَّهُ خَيْرٌ حَافِظًا وَهُوَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. He said Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who protects really. In other words, if there's a situation where I have to give Binyamin to all of you, then I will do that. And I know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to protect Binyamin at the end of the day. Even though it's difficult for me to let go of my authority, it's difficult for me to let go of Binyamin, at the end of the day, if that's something I have to do, then I will do that. Wallahu khayrun hafidha. He is the one who's going to protect Binyamin better than I could ever protect him myself. وَهُوَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. And he is the one who's going to have mercy on Binyamin. He is also the one who's going to have mercy on me in terms of how he tests me when he takes my children away from me, when he takes these fruits of my heart away from me. Okay. But he was not done with that. The brothers, of course, they opened up their sacks of wheat, these bags that they had of wheat. وَلَمَّا فَتَحُوا مَتَاعَهُمْ وَجَدُوا بِضَاعَتَهُمْ رُدَّتْ إِلَيْهِمْ. When they opened these sacks of wheat, what they found was that the money that they had paid to this Aziz who lives in Misr, this Aziz who lives in Egypt, who, by the way, they still don't know he's Yusuf. They don't even refer to him by his name. They refer to him as Al-Aziz, right? The powerful one, the great one. They found that the money that they had taken to Aziz to get this wheat, who was Yusuf, by the way, that money has been returned to them, has been placed in those sacks of wheat that they were supposed to buy with that money. So they opened it up, and of course they were very surprised. The first thing they did was they went to their father. They said, "Father, this is the best proof that what we're saying, there's truth to it. And it's the best proof that the way forward, the decision to be made, is to make sure that we take Binyamin with us this time, Because if we take Binyamin with us this time, then what happens? We're going to get an extra sack of wheat, alongside the fact that we will not be deprived of wheat altogether as a family, because the Aziz of Misr has told us that if we come back this time and our younger brother is not with us, then none of us are going to get wheat. So what did they say? وَلَمَّا فَتَحُوا مَتَاعَهُمْ وَجَدُوا بِضَاعَتَهُمْ رُدَّتْ إِلَيْهِمْ قالوا يا أبانا ما نبغي. What else are we waiting for? هذه بضاعتنا ردت إلينا. This is our money that's been essentially returned to us. ونمير أهلنا ونحفظ أخانا ونزداد كيل بعير ذلك كيل يسير. The Aziz of Misr, he will give us an extra sack of wheat this time, and it's going to be so easy for him to do this anyways, because he has so much wheat at his disposal. An extra sack of wheat is not going to mean anything to him. Okay. What did they, when they proposed this to Yaqub did not let them just take Binyamin, even though technically there is really nothing that Yaqub can do at this point. But still, at the very least, what he's going to do is he's going to get a promise from them. You see, a prophet, when he does things, even in situations where there isn't really much that he can do, at least he will make it clear and official. At least he will take a spiritual promise from the person he's dealing with, that this person will hold up their end of the promise. قَالَ لَنْ أُرْسِلَهُ مَعَكُمْ حَتَّى تُؤْتُونِ مَوْثِقًا مِّنَ اللَّهِ. He said, I'll only give you Binyamin to go, even though technically Yaqub knows he has no other choice, because if he doesn't give Binyamin, no one is going to get wheat, and all of Egypt and the surrounding regions, they're dealing with a drought. It's not like Yaqub really has a choice here, but still, because he has this suspicion when it comes to the brothers, he said, I still will not give Binyamin to you unless you make me a promise. And that promise is this, لَتَأْتُنَّنِي بِهِ, that you will bring Binyamin to me. We mentioned last week that when he says you will bring Binyamin back to me, this is different from saying that you will not get rid of Binyamin. This is different from saying that I want to make sure that Binyamin comes back to Canaan. It's different from all of those, because this is showing how much Yaqub loves Binyamin. He said, I will give him to you if you promise to give him back to me, to bring him back to me. لَتَأْتُنَّنِي بِهِ. He could have said, لَتَأْتُنَّ بِهِ, as long as you guys promise that you will bring him back. But no, Binyamin is the fruit of the heart of Yaqub. He's the last thing that Yaqub has in his life left for him. Yusuf is not around anymore. These other children, of course, we know the type of intentions that they have, the evil intentions that they had. So what is left for Yaqub in his life is just Binyamin. He says, I will give Binyamin to you as long as you promise to bring him back to me. لَتَأْتُنَّنِي بِهِ إِلَّا أَن يُحَاطَ بِكُمْ فَلَمَّا آتَوْهُ مَوْثِقَهُمْ قَالَ اللَّهُ عَلَى مَا نَقُولُ وَكِيلٌ. So they all made that promise, and when they made that promise, Yaqub said, well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching us while we make this promise. وَقَالَ يَا بَنِيَّ. He said, listen, my children, now that you're going to go back to Egypt, and you're going to try to get more wheat from the Aziz of Misr, I do have this one recommendation for you. لا تدخلوا من باب واحد وادخلوا من أبواب متفرقة. If you are going to enter, then do not all enter from the same gate. Make sure that you enter from different gates. وما أغني عنكم من الله من شيء إن الحكم إلا لله عليه توكلت وعليه فليتوكل المتوكلون. Do this as a precaution, but the threat and the danger that's out there, even if you take your precaution, this doesn't mean that that threat is not going to be there for you. In other words, you are supposed to take your precautions, but the result is still in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, this is essentially where we ended. Verse 68 is where we will start, inshallah. وَلَمَّا دَخَلُوا مِنْ حَيْثُ أَمَرَهُمْ أَبُوهُمْ. When they entered into Egypt, and they actually entered in the form and in the manner that their father had ordered them to enter into Egypt. In other words, they entered into Egypt from multiple gates. What happened? مَا كَانَ يُغْنِي عَنْهُمْ مِنَ اللَّهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if He didn't want to, He would not have removed the threat from this family. He would not have removed the threat from the children of Yaqub. إِلَّا حَاجَةً فِي نَفْسِ يَعْقُوبَ قَضَاهَا. If it was not for that one thing that Yaqub wanted, if it wasn't for the fact that Yaqub really wanted, that these children and this family would stick together. Okay, now we know that when this family actually went into Egypt, as we will read in a couple of verses, that Binyamin did not come back with them. But because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is looking at the story as a whole, He's looking not just at this moment, but all the way till the end, He is seeing that this whole family actually stuck together. Not only did these 11 children stick together, in fact, the 12th, which was Yusuf, he would also join in with them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that because Yaqub had that worry and that concern in his heart, we granted him that request, that the children of Yaqub would not be dispersed, that they would not be lost, that this family would stick together. إلا حاجة في نفس يعقوب قضاها وإنه لذو علم لما علمناه ولكن أكثر الناس لا يعلمون. And he was the type of person that we had given him a knowledge, this very heavy knowledge of prophethood. ولكن أكثر الناس لا يعلمون. But most people, they would not appreciate this knowledge of his, including his own children. Imagine that you are a prophet and your own children, they disobey you. Your own children, they don't listen to you. This is a difficult thing. And by the way, one of the things that we can always remember when we look at the lives of the prophets, and there are multiple examples of this, is that just because a father or a mother have a child or children, in the case of Yaqub, that don't turn out to be the best of children, this doesn't mean necessarily that there was something wrong with the father and the mother. A lot of times, we will judge a father or a mother based on how their children turn out. And this is wrong. And the reason why it's wrong is because we have examples from the lives of our prophets. We have examples from the lives of our imams, of individuals who were wonderful individuals. Within the Shia school of thought, we might even go as far as saying that they were infallible, meaning that they could never do anything wrong. And still their children turned out to be some horrible individuals. Now you look at the example of Yaqub alayhi salam and his children. His children are disobeying him while they know that he is a prophet. But does that mean that Yaqub didn't know what he was doing in his parenthood? Does that mean that we can sit back and judge an individual by the way his child has turned out? No, not necessarily. Yes, sometimes what the parent does, of course, it has a huge effect on the upbringing of the child. But that's not always the case. And because it's not always the case, we are not allowed to generalize. We are not allowed to sit there and say, this person, that person, such and such individual, they're not close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't know how to live an Islamic life. Have you seen their children? Well, maybe their children don't turn out to be so good, but that's not always the fault. It's not always, the blame is not always on the parents. Sometimes the parents did everything right and still the children did not turn out to be so good. The best example of this is Nuh alayhi salam. Nuh had a son who in the last moments of his life, even as the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was right there in front of him, and the waves of this storm that was coming, this flood that was coming, was essentially stopping between Nuh and his son. As they could see these waves, still his son did not come into the ship or into the boat with Nuh alayhi salam. Still he said, I will go to a mountain and I will protect myself from this flood. Imagine the pain in the heart of Nuh as he watches his son. This is a big test of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imagine the pain that he has in his heart when he's sitting there, he's pleading with his child. He wants his child to come, but his child will not listen to him. He said, you know what? I don't need you, Father, and I don't need this God of yours. Remember, these are during those moments that the waves of the flood are taking over the whole place, right? This is not before the flood. This is while the flood is almost going to drown the son of Nuh, and still he will not come into the ship with Nuh alayhi salam. You have examples with Yaqub alayhi salam. You have examples of individuals who are brothers of imams. You have individuals who were children of the imam. And still, they were horrible individuals. Some of them, they claim to be the next imam even. So what can be worse than that? So it is wrong for us to sit there and say that this person, there was something wrong with him. He doesn't know how to parent. He must have done something wrong. He must have stolen some money. He must have broken some heart. That now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is punishing him by having his child do these terrible things, having his child not be a practicing individual, having his child turn away from the religion. You can't judge a mother or a father based on that. This is not to negate the role of parenthood. This is not to negate the role of a mother or a father. In fact, in a lot of cases, it is because the mother or father didn't do a good job that the child turned out to be the way that he or she is. But that is not always the case. And because it's not always the case, you and I don't have the right to judge someone based on how their child turns out to be. Here's Yaqub. He has 12 children. Out of these 12, 10 of them are individuals who are willing to see a prophet mourn and go blind and still not tell him that we didn't kill Yusuf. So this shows that the children of a prophet even can turn out to be bad individuals or do horrible things, and still the prophet is not to blame. The prophet has no fault in this regard. Going back to the story, when they actually entered, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that if we wanted, we could have essentially taken this family and torn it apart. إِلَّا حَاجَةً فِي نَفْسِ يَعْقُوبَ قَضَاهَا. But it was because of the concern and the request that Yaqub had in his heart that we did not do such a thing. We wanted to keep this family together. وَلَمَّا دَخَلُوا عَلَى يُوسُف. When they actually entered upon Yusuf. Now, bear in mind, keep in mind, these are very critical moments. Yes, this is the second time that the brothers of Yusuf are entering upon Yusuf. It's not the first time that Yusuf is going to see his brothers after 20, 30, 40 years. It's the second time. But even though it's the second time, this time it's different. Why? Because the first time the brothers of Yusuf came, Binyamin was not with them. This time, Binyamin is with them. وَلَمَّا دَخَلُوا عَلَى يُوسُف آوَى إِلَيْهِ أَخَاهُ. He took his younger brother and he brought him closer to himself. قَالَ إِنِّي أَخُوكِ. He said, listen, I am your brother. إِنِّي أَنَا أَخُوكِ فَلَا تَبْتَئِسْ بِمَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. So don't let what these guys do or used to do bother you. I'm Yusuf. I'm the one that you've been looking for all of this time. Imagine this emotional moment, what it actually looks like between Yusuf alayhi salam and Binyamin meeting up after 20, 30, 40 years, not being able to see one another, and then finally they actually get the opportunity to meet up. It must have been a very emotional moment for Yusuf and for Binyamin as well. These two brothers who only had each other throughout this whole process, now they're getting to meet up with one another. Okay. Now, of course, the plan of Yusuf is not over. He got Binyamin here, but he has to keep Binyamin here. Why? Because there's a test that Yaqub has to go through still. وَلَمَّا جَهَّزَهُمْ فَلَمَّا جَهَّزَهُمْ بِجَهَازِهِمْ جَعَلَ السِّقَايَةَ فِي رَحْلِ أَخِيهِ. When they started to pack their provisions, the wheat that they had got, what did he do? جَعَلَ السِّقَايَةَ فِي رَحْلِ أَخِيهِ. He took the cup or the glass of his and he put it in the sack or the saddle bag of his brother. As these guys were heading out of Egypt, ثُمَّ أَذَّنَ مُؤَذِّنٌ. Then a mu'adhin came. Mu'adhin means what? Someone who was giving adhan? No, it doesn't mean someone who was giving adhan. Adhan means to announce something, right? ثُمَّ أَذَّنَ مُؤَذِّنٌ. One of the troops of Yusuf came out and he started to announce, أَيَّتُهَا الْعِيرُ. O caravan, the caravan that you guys came from Canaan, إِنَّكُمْ لَصَارِقُونَ. You guys have stolen something from us. Okay. Now it's very beautiful because in these moments, the verse of the Quran, the way it describes the conversation that's happening between this caravan and the troops of Yusuf who have now come and told them that they have stolen something, it's very beautiful. The Quran says, قَالُوا وَأَقْبَلُوا عَلَيْهِمْ مَاذَا تَفْقِدُونَ. As they were turning around, they heard this call from behind them. As they were turning around, they said, what is it that you guys are missing? And of course, they were dumbfounded. They felt very confused because we didn't steal anything. No one in that caravan has technically stolen anything. So they're very confused. But the Quran puts it very beautifully that as they were moving away, قَالُوا وَأَقْبَلُوا عَلَيْهِمْ. As they were turning around, they said, wait a second, what is it that you guys have lost? So the troops of Yusuf then explain what they have lost. قَالُوا نَفْقِدُ الصُّوَاعَ الْمَلِكِ وَلِمَنْ جَاءَ بِهِ حِمْلُ بَعِيرٍ وَأَنَا بِهِ زَعِيمٌ. The head of the troops said, listen, we have lost the cup of the Aziz of Misr, the cup that he uses to drink. Okay. And if anyone can bring this cup to me, I will give him a whole camel load of wheat. However much you can put on one camel, I will guarantee that for you. Which is essentially like guaranteeing gold because there's a drought. And if you can guarantee wheat for somebody, that's the best and highest prize that you can guarantee to someone. Now, of course, the brothers of Yusuf, they didn't know that this cup is actually there with them. So instead of approaching this from the perspective of, yes, we took the cup, why don't you give us the prize that you have allocated for whoever brings the cup to you, which they could have done. But because they're so confused and they know for a fact, supposedly, that they don't have the cup with them, they said, no, 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 we didn't steal anything. Well, the troops of Yusuf said, if you bring us this cup, you have a prize. And now they're saying, we didn't steal anything. Okay. قالوا تالله لقد علمتم ما جئنا لنفسد في الأرض وما كنا سارقين. So they started to search, and you can tell that Yusuf alayhi salam had told his troops to search in this manner. فبدأ بأوعيتهم قبل وعاء أخيه. In order to make sure that these individuals do not realize that this was a plan that Yusuf had ahead of time, he told his troops, whether it was himself doing the searching or the troops were doing the searching, he did this to make sure that they start searching the saddlebags of all of the other brothers before they actually get to the saddlebags or the sacks of wheat that belonged to Binyamin. This was part of the plan in order to make sure that this plan is not unveiled, that the brothers of Yusuf do not feel like this was something that was an elaborate plan that was planned out from before in order to keep Binyamin with them. All of this because of what? All of this planning that Yusuf is going through, this elaborate plotting that he's doing to keep Yusuf with him, all of this just to test Yaqub, just to take Yaqub away and see if Yaqub is going to be patient when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken Yusuf away from him already and now is going to take Binyamin from him as well. This is such a big test for Yaqub that you find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going through all of these details. But all of these details are happening for what reason? For the sole reason that Yaqub is now going to be tested again. Now, there are some other reasons to it as well, but that's the main reason. When they actually found this, ثُمَّ اسْتَخْرَجَهَا مِنْ وَعَاءِ أَخِيهِ كَذَلِكَ كِدْنَا لِيُوسُفَ. When they actually brought it out of the sack of wheat that belonged to Binyamin, then the Quran says, كَذَلِكَ كِدْنَا لِيُوسُفَ. This is how we helped Yusuf in his planning. And then take a look at these lines. لِيَأْخُذَ أَخَاهُ فِي دِينِ الْمَلِكِ إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ. This was the only way Yusuf would have been able to keep his brother in Egypt, and it was only done with the help and assistance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we had not told him how to go about this, there would be no other way of him solving this situation, keeping Binyamin with him. نَرْفَعُ دَرَجَاتٍ مَنْ نَشَاءُ. We take whoever we want and we elevate his status. وَفَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ. And above every person of knowledge, there is another person who is more knowledgeable. This part of the line is a very beautiful part, because essentially Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing that if the brothers of Yusuf 20, 30, 40 years ago tried to come up with this elaborate plan to get rid of Yusuf, to have Yusuf no longer be in their lives, here is Yusuf, not only he is in their lives and they don't even know it, he is taking Binyamin away from them in such a way that they did not even have an idea or clue about it. They thought that they were very smart. They thought that they had all the knowledge to plot and plan against Yusuf. Here is Yusuf plotting and planning against them, but in a way where they don't even know what's happening. They have no clue or idea what's hitting them at this point. وَفَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ. Everyone who thinks they're smart, there will always be someone who's smarter than them. There will always be someone who has more knowledge than them. This is what we understand from this part of the verse as it relates to the story of Yusuf. But if you take it out of this context, this is actually a general principle that you find in life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us that it doesn't matter what level you stand at. It doesn't matter where you are in terms of knowledge, in terms of wealth, in terms of charisma, in terms of beauty, in terms of whatever it is that you have in your life. Doesn't matter what level you stand at. There will always be someone who comes around and has a little bit more than you have. If you feel great about being beautiful, know that there's going to be someone out there who will be even more beautiful. If you feel like you have so much wealth, know that there are those who have more wealth than you. If you feel like you have this charisma, know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made this world in such a way that there will come along a person who will have more charisma than you. And therefore, life is not always upwards. Sometimes it's downwards, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to test you with the up and with the down. Now, you might say, well, Shaykh, what's the point of this? I'm not supposed to feel good about myself. You're telling me that there are other people more beautiful than me? No. In fact, it's the exact opposite. I want you to feel good about yourself. Because what you understand from this line of this verse is this, that whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to me, I'm supposed to be satisfied. I'm supposed to be happy with whatever He has given to me. Because if I'm constantly asking for more, this desire and this thirst that I have for more when it comes to this dunya, whatever it is, it's beauty, wealth, charisma, people following me, people liking me, whatever the case might be, whatever I want, it will never fully be satisfied. Because whatever level of it Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives me, there will come along someone who has a little bit more of that same thing compared to me. It is wrong for me to want to conquer this world in every aspect of it, because whatever I have, whether it's knowledge, beauty, wealth, whatever the case is, whatever level Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses me with, there will be someone else that He has blessed with more than me. And therefore, if I'm just trying to fulfill my desires all the time, when I see that person, now I feel down. Now I feel like, oh, he has more. You can take the wealthiest individuals in the world, right? When they see someone who has more wealth than them, they feel down. But you might tell them, listen, you have so much wealth. There are thousands of people who would wish to be in your place. They would wish to have the type of wealth that you have. And he will tell you, yes, that's very true. There's thousands of people who would want to be in my place. But guess what? There's another person, he has even more than me. And because of that, this desire that we have to conquer the world in terms of the success that we can gain, the beauty that we can have, the wealth that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses us with, it will never end. That day will never come where you look at your life, you say, you know what, my life is perfect. I have everything at the highest level. That is not going to happen in this world. Therefore, if you have a certain level of it, be happy with it. Be satisfied with it. Try your best. Do your best. You want to be more successful? Try your best and do your best. No doubt about that. But then the results, when the results come back and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you 5 levels of success instead of 7, and you see someone else with 7, don't sit there and say, why did he get 7? No. Be happy with the 5, because guess what? If you're not going to be happy with the 5, then let me tell you this. The person who has 7 levels of success is also sitting there and saying, there's someone else who has 9 levels of success. And the one who has 9 is sitting there and saying, you know, someone else has 11. And it just goes on and on. وَفَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ. There's always going to be a person who has more of what you want in their life. But even they will not be happy, because this same principle applies to them as well. So whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with, we are to be happy with that. If you really want to be the best and you want to have this perfect life, it's never going to happen, because there will always come somebody who has more of what you want in their life. And that person will also look at someone who has more than what they have in their life and say, well, you know, I know there's thousands of people who want to be in my place right now, in my shoes right now, but then this guy, he has more than me. And where does our happiness go in a world like this? Where does our happiness go in a lifestyle like this? وَفَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ. This is not to put you down. This is actually to give you the feeling that you are satisfied with whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives to you. And then on the other hand, if someone has something in their life and they are arrogant, they boast about it, they feel like they are untouchable because they have this attribute, then the Quran is also making it clear, وَفَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ. Whatever you have, whether it's beauty that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed you with, whether it's knowledge, whether it's wealth, charisma, clout, whatever you want to call it, support, whatever you want to call it, at whatever level you have that, know that we have blessed someone else with even more than that. Then what gives you the right to be arrogant about this? What gives you the right to boast about this? No, we have given more wealth and more beauty to somebody else. If it is a reason for you to become arrogant, then why have we given more of it to somebody else? You are not to become arrogant because you have this beauty. There are others who are much more beautiful than yours. We read in the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, this hadith from our imams, that on the day of judgment they will bring individuals who are good looking. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks them, why did you engage in a haram relationship? They will say, well, it's not our fault, it's God's fault, because He blessed us with these good looks. And if they are a man, the hadith says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings Yusuf alayhi salam and says, here, I blessed him too. But this didn't push him to engage in haram relationships. And if it's a woman that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings out Maryam and says, here, I blessed her with good looks too. But this didn't push her to a point where she would engage in haram relationships because of these good looks. The Quran is telling us to be satisfied wherever we are. It is also telling us to not be arrogant, to not boast, because at whatever level you are, that you are about boasting about, whether it's your wealth, beauty, or knowledge, or whatever it is, there is someone out there who has more of that thing than you have. And therefore, you're not worthy of being arrogant. You're not worthy of boasting about this blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to you. وَفَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ. Okay. As these verses come to an end, inshallah, we'll move on to what the brothers of Yusuf said after Yusuf alayhi salam told them that essentially the cup is with them. When this happened, what did the brothers of Yusuf say? This next line that the brothers of Yusuf are going to add is not going to make their situation any easier. It's going to make their situation more difficult. It's going to make their situation even worse. But before that, there is a question here, and that is this. If Yusuf alayhi salam knew that the brothers had not taken this cup, then why is it that he accused them of stealing? Isn't it wrong to accuse someone of stealing something? At the end of the day, Yusuf alayhi salam is a prophet. And if he's a prophet, then that should show in his conduct. And at the end of the day, even though he has this great plan, but because he has this great plan, it doesn't justify for him to lie and go to the brothers and say, you guys have stolen my cup. Because at the end of the day, the brothers did not steal the cup of Yusuf alayhi salam. Yes, they had the cup with them, but they didn't steal it because they didn't intentionally take that cup. In the tafsirs of the Quran, you find that there's this great debate and dispute about these verses of the Quran as to why Yusuf alayhi salam accused his brothers of stealing when in reality he knew that they had not stolen anything. And we don't mean to get into the whole discussion. There's just one point that you have to remember. Never in the verses of the Quran did Yusuf ever say that they had stolen anything. If you look at the verses of the Quran, Yusuf never said, Ya ayyuhal ayr innakum lasariqun. Who said this? Thumma adhana mu'adhinun. One of the troops of Yusuf said this. He said, you guys have stolen the cup of the king, or you have stolen the cup of Aziz of Misr. He never said that they have stolen anything, and therefore this whole discussion doesn't make any sense anymore, because Yusuf alayhi salam was never in a position to ever accuse them of stealing anything. Yes, he made this plan, of course. Yes, this was his way of keeping Binyamin there, but he was never the one who accused them of stealing anything to begin with. That's the answer to that question. Okay. Inshallah, let's move on to verse 77. When the brothers of Yusuf found themselves in this situation, and they found that they're actually guilty, even though they're very surprised and confused about this, they of course must have turned to Binyamin and started to blame him that you've brought disgrace to our family, and that you're such a terrible brother for ours. right? And it's probably because you're the brother of Yusuf that you're ending up doing such a thing, that you're stealing now. But then the next line that they uttered started to create even more problems. And there is more of a lesson to be learned from this next line that the brothers of Yusuf uttered in this story. قالوا إن يسرق فقد سرق أخ له من قبل. They said, you know what? O Aziz of Misr, if you see Binyamin stealing, you are not to be surprised. This is who he is. Because he also had another brother who came from the same mother who also stole. What are they referring to? They're referring to those childhood days of Yusuf alayhi salam, that he was accused of stealing by some of his relatives simply because those relatives wanted Yusuf around. The brothers of Yusuf knew that Yusuf had not stolen anything, but this was their way of putting the blame on Binyamin. This was their way of saying, yes, Binyamin is not one of us. He is the one who stole, but he only stole because he comes from a family, referring to the mother of Binyamin, that, all of them steal actually. You know what? Not only Binyamin steals, Yusuf also used to steal as well. And therefore, we don't share the blame with Binyamin. If Binyamin is stealing things, that's just how he is. That's just how his family is. All of them are like that. Now take a look at what Yusuf alayhi salam did here as I bring the talk to an end. What Yusuf alayhi salam did was this. فَأَسَرَّهَا يُوسُفُ فِي نَفْسِهِ وَلَمْ يُبْدِهَا لَهُمْ. Yusuf held back because Yusuf knows that these guys are lying. Yusuf knows that he is being accused of stealing something, whereas he knows for a fact that he did not steal whatever they're talking about. So what does Yusuf do? Does he just open his mouth and blurt out things and ruin the whole plan? No, that's not how a prophet approaches things. A prophet looks at what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is expecting of him in every moment. فَأَسَرَّهَا يُوسُفُ فِي نَفْسِهِ. He kept it to himself. وَلَمْ يُبْدِهَا لَهُمْ. And he didn't let it show. But then the Quran says that he said a couple of phrases. These are the couple of phrases that he said. قَالَ أَنْتُمْ شَرٌّ مَكَانًا. He said, you know what? If his brother had stolen anything, referring to Yusuf himself, if he had stolen anything, you all are worse. Because here you're sitting and you guys had stolen the cup of the king, and in reality, he had stolen something while he was a child. If that's true, أَنْتُمْ شَرٌّ مَكَانًا. And then he said this, وَاللَّهُ أَعْلَمُ بِمَا تَصِفُونَ. And he said, you know what? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows better what you all are describing. In other words, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows better if Yusuf actually stole stuff or he didn't steal things. What is Yusuf alayhi salam teaching us? Now remember, these are a group of brothers that have brought the whole family of Yaqub alayhi salam so much pain, so much difficulty, so much agony in the hearts of Yaqub. But still, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not want Yusuf to open his mouth and ruin this plan, he doesn't want him to blurt out that he is in fact Yusuf, then what does he do? He keeps it in his heart. He said, Wallahu a'lamu bima tasifun. This thing that you keep saying about his brother, referring to himself, referring to Yusuf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows better what you all are describing. What a beautiful way to deal with a group of ignorant individuals. This is what we're taught from the Ahlul Bayt, that when you come across an ignorant individual and he accuses you of something, he says, you're such and such, or he comes to you and he says something nasty, what are you supposed to say? Nothing. You sit there and you say, you know what? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. That's why in hadith we read that a special servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, someone's passing by and turned to him and said, you know what? Your mother is such and such. Right? Your mother used to do such and such. And he turned to this individual and he said, you know what? If that's true about my mother, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive her. But if it's not true, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive you. Now which one is true? Doesn't matter. Wallahu a'lamu bima tasifun. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what it is that you guys are talking about. And in a hadith we have, famous hadith of Unwan al-Basri from the 6th Imam. He says, when I sat with the 6th Imam and I begged the 6th Imam for some advice, he gave me a number of advices, a number of pieces of advice. He said, then there are 3 things that have to do with patience that you are supposed to implement in your life. The second of those 3 things is this. He said, whenever someone comes to you and swears at you, he says something nasty to you, then what you are to do, instead of engaging with him, is you are supposed to sit there and say, if what you said is true, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive me. And if what you said is not true, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive you. If someone comes and swears at you and he says something nasty to you, don't let it become your problem. That's their problem. It's very interesting how sometimes people can say things, and instead of us understanding that that's their problem, they have to deal with that problem, we then take that into our own life and we make it our own problem. Someone comes and accuses of us of something, and we get so frustrated, and we get so upset. And of course, it's natural. But then this reaches a point where we can barely function as a human being. Why would you do that? Why allow what he is saying come into your life, you internalize it, and now you feel like you have to defend yourself? Even sometimes in your own mind, you sit for hours and hours and you think, no, I should have told him this, and I should have said this. Why are you spending mental energy on a person who doesn't even know what he's talking about? If he's ignorant, then why engage with him, either physically, either in person, or later on mentally with your mind? Why are you sitting there and going through this conversation in your mind? If he has no manners, that's his problem. Don't allow that to become your problem. The hadith says when someone comes and says something nasty to you, you don't engage with them. You just say, hey, if what you said was right, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, may He forgive me. And if it's not, then may He forgive you for opening your mouth and saying these types of things, and you move on. وَإِذَا خَاطَبَهُمُ الْجَاهِلُونَ قَالُوا سَلَامًا. The ignorant person comes and says something, the one who is also ignorant will start to engage with him. The one who is a believer will walk away. He'll say, قَالُوا سَلَامًا. I don't have anything to say about this. I'm not going to engage with this. This is a lesson for us. Yusuf, his brothers, not only did they get rid of him, after years and years, they're going to accuse him of stealing things. They're going to accuse, essentially, Yusuf and his brother of disgracing the rest of the brothers. But Yusuf alayhi salam just said what? فَأَسَرَّهَا يُوسُفُ فِي نَفْسِهِ. He kept it in his heart. All he said is, وَاللَّهُ أَعْلَمُ بِمَا تَصِفُونَ. Yes, I know you say Yusuf used to steal things, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows better about what you're describing. If Yusuf used to steal things, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to deal with it. And if he didn't used to steal things, then you are lying. But it doesn't matter for Yusuf at this point, because a prophet is trying to act upon the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is not one that goes based off of emotions. He doesn't work based off his anger. He doesn't work based off of his frustration. It's not how a prophet goes about things. With that, inshallah, we'll bring today's talk to an end. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He places us amongst the true followers of the Ahlul Bayt, inshallah. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the tawfiq and the opportunity to help the other servants of His who are going through difficulty and pain during these days. And finally, last but not least, we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He hastens the return of our beloved 12th Imam bin Nabi wa alih. رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة مع الصلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.